Let's dive into a border dispute that's part history lesson, part modern-day crisis, and entirely unlike anything you've seen before. This isn't just a story about two countries disagreeing over a patch of land, it's a saga that blends ancient history, modern politics, and the very real struggles of people living on the edge of conflict. The Thailand-Cambodia conflict isn't just about a line on a map, it's about identity, ancient temples, and national pride. For both sides, the Preah Vihear Temple is more than stone and mortar. It's a symbol of heritage, a source of pride, and a flashpoint for national emotion. This feud has everything: colonial-era confusion, international court drama, and in 2025, actual rockets and fighter jets. Decades of legal battles and diplomatic negotiations have failed to resolve the tension, and now, the conflict has erupted into open confrontation. Imagine two siblings fighting over a priceless family heirloom, except the heirloom is a 1,000-year-old temple, and the shouting is replaced by artillery fire. The stakes are higher, the emotions deeper, and the consequences far more devastating. The roots of this crisis go back over a century, tangled in old maps, colonial ambitions, and unresolved grievances. Each generation inherits the dispute, and each new map only seems to add more confusion. In 2025, those tensions exploded, literally, turning a simmering dispute into a dangerous standoff. What was once a diplomatic headache became a full-blown military crisis, with both sides unwilling to back down. Soldiers mobilized, villages evacuated, and ancient ruins became battlegrounds. The border region transformed overnight, as families fled and soldiers dug in, determined to defend their nation's honor. We'll break down why these temples matter so much, how the violence escalated, and the real impact on people caught in the crossfire. For many, this isn't just a news story. It's a daily struggle for safety, home, and hope. We'll focus on the key flashpoints, May 28th and July 24th, when the world's attention turned to this remote border and the crisis reached its boiling point. You'll meet the main players, Cambodia's Grad rocket launchers, a symbol of the country's determination to defend its claim and a reminder of how quickly disputes can turn deadly. And Thailand's F-16 fighter jets, roaring overhead, ready to assert control of the skies and send a message of strength to their neighbors. Most importantly, we'll see how ordinary lives are upended by this geopolitical tug-of-war. Families forced to flee, children growing up in shelters, and communities torn apart by forces beyond their control. So buckle up, this is the story of the 2025 Thailand-Cambodia border crisis. Let's get started and discover how history, politics, and human stories collide in one of the world's most tense and fascinating disputes. To truly grasp the roots of today's conflict, we need to journey back over a century, to the early 1900s, when the world looked very different, and colonial ambitions shaped the map of Southeast Asia. Back then, French colonialists were tasked with drawing borders across vast unfamiliar lands. Their methods were often hasty, relying on rough surveys, incomplete information, and sometimes pure guesswork rather than careful precision. This lack of clarity left behind a tangled legacy, especially around the Preah Vihear Temple, a breathtaking Hindu complex that sits dramatically atop a cliff, overlooking the plains below. Its location made it both a spiritual beacon and a geopolitical flashpoint. Fast forward to 1962, when the International Court of Justice stepped in. The court ruled that the temple itself belonged to Cambodia, but crucially, it left the surrounding land undefined, creating a gray zone that neither side could truly claim. As a result, Cambodia holds the temple, but Thailand controls the most convenient access route, an arrangement that has fueled decades of disputes, misunderstandings, and diplomatic standoffs. For both nations, these ancient temples are far more than crumbling ruins. They are powerful symbols of national identity, pride, and a shared yet contested history that stretches back over 1,000 years. The dispute is deeply emotional, not just a matter of territory or lines on a map. For many locals, it's about heritage, honor, and the stories passed down through generations. Over the years, tensions have simmered and occasionally boiled over, with armed clashes erupting in 2008 and 2011. These confrontations were stark reminders that old wounds can easily reopen, and that history is never truly in the past. Each side accuses the other of encroachment, moving border markers, building roads or outposts, and even altering the landscape to assert their claims. The jungle border is a place of constant vigilance and suspicion. In this region, every inch of land is steeped in history, and every disputed stone or marker carries the weight of centuries. Here, those inches are not just land, they are legacy. The ghosts of colonialism still linger, turning faded lines on old maps into modern-day flashpoints. The mistakes of the past continue to shape the present, haunting the borderlands with unresolved questions. And now, in 2025, these old tensions have erupted once again, setting the stage for a new and potentially dangerous showdown at the crossroads of history and national pride. How did a century-old dispute erupt into open conflict in 2025? The seeds of this crisis were sown long before, but the events leading up to May 2025 were especially volatile. It all began with steadily rising tensions in late 2024, as both nations grew increasingly suspicious of each other's intentions. Both sides ramped up military patrols near the ancient Ta Moan and Ta Krabi temples, historic flashpoints along the disputed border. Each patrol was a show of strength, with soldiers on edge, each side daring the other to blink first. Nationalist rallies erupted in both countries, with crowds waving flags and chanting slogans. Social media only fueled the fire, spreading rumors and inflaming passions, while politicians on both sides amped up the rhetoric, promising to defend national honor at any cost. Public pressure mounted, forcing leaders to deploy even more troops to the border. The sight of convoys and new camps made everyone more anxious, as the region braced for the worst. By May, the tension finally boiled over. Minor skirmishes broke out in the dense jungle, brief bursts of small arms fire, with each side quick to blame the other for provocation. The line between routine patrol and open hostility blurred. Cambodia accused Thailand of building illegal outposts deep in contested territory, while Thailand insisted its troops were simply conducting routine patrols that came under sudden attack. In the thick, misty jungle, the truth was nearly impossible to pin down. Confusion and misinformation reigned, making it hard for anyone to know what was really happening. These repeated clashes frayed nerves on both sides, creating a climate of fear and suspicion. Every soldier at the border felt the tension, knowing that a single mistake could trigger something far worse. Diplomats scrambled to call for calm, holding emergency meetings and press conferences. But the momentum toward conflict was already building, and their words struggled to keep pace with events on the ground. Military commanders were given more autonomy than ever before, increasing the risk that a small incident could spiral out of control without warning. The stage was set, the actors in place, and the border bristled with tension. Every move was watched, every order weighed carefully. All it needed was a spark, a single event to ignite the powder keg. That spark finally came on May 28, shattering the uneasy peace and plunging the region into crisis. On May 28, 2025, the border's tension snapped. A firefight erupted near Ta Moan Tam Temple, each side blaming the other for starting it. What began as a rifle skirmish escalated to mortars and artillery. Villagers fled as explosions echoed through ancient ruins. Hours of fighting left soldiers dead and trust shattered. By late afternoon, a shaky ceasefire took hold, but the damage was done. The conflict had crossed a line, no going back. The ancient stones of Ta Moan witnessed modern chaos. The world watched as a simmering dispute became a shooting war. The crisis was now impossible to ignore. As fighting intensified, Cambodia unleashed its BM-21 Grad rocket launchers. Picture a truck firing 40 rockets in 20 seconds, a weapon designed to saturate, not pinpoint. The Grad's power is in its volume, blanketing entire areas with explosives. It's terrifyingly effective against troops and supply lines, but dangerously imprecise. In 2025, Cambodia used Grads to counter Thai artillery and disrupt troop movements. The psychological impact was huge. 40 rockets screaming overhead is pure terror. But the lack of precision meant civilian areas were at risk. Stray rockets hit villages, turning the Grad into a symbol of civilian danger. The weapon's strength became its greatest liability in a crowded border zone. The Grad was now central and controversial in the crisis. Thailand's answer to the Grad? The F-16 Fighting Falcon. Fast, agile, and deadly, the F-16 is a flying multi-tool, capable of both air combat and precision ground strikes. In this conflict, its job was to hunt down artillery and rocket launchers. Pilots used advanced sensors to spot targets, then dropped laser-guided bombs with pinpoint accuracy. Unlike the Grad's scattershot approach, the F-16 could take out a single vehicle from miles away. Thailand's F-16s quickly established air superiority, deterring Cambodia's smaller air force. They flew reconnaissance, gathered intelligence, and struck grad launchers and command posts. The roar of jets was both a morale boost for Thai troops and a warning to Cambodia. Deploying F-16s marked a major escalation. Air power had entered the fight. The stakes were now higher than ever. The F-16 became the symbol of Thailand's technological edge. The border war had gone high-tech. After May's clashes, a tense calm held. Until July 24th, Cambodian grad rockets landed near a Thai village, crossing a red line. Thailand responded with a massive airstrike, F-16s targeting rocket launchers and artillery deep inside Cambodia. For the first time, the conflict spilled beyond the immediate border. Cambodia accused Thailand of aggression. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky, but the jets struck with impunity. The world took notice. This was no longer a local skirmish. The UN called an emergency meeting as fears of wider war grew. Both sides went on high alert, fortifying the border. The region held its breath, wondering what would come next. The crisis had reached its most dangerous point. While armies fought, civilians suffered most. Thousands fled their homes, turning schools and temples into crowded shelters. Children stopped going to school. Farmers abandoned fields and livestock. The local economy collapsed as trade and agriculture halted. The threat wasn't just at the front. Grad rockets and stray shells hit villages miles away. Fear and anxiety became daily realities. People were afraid to work or let kids play outside. Even after fighting eased, danger lingered. Unexploded ordnance and landmines turned fields into deadly traps. Returning home was a gamble with life and limb. Clearing these remnants would take years. For civilians, the war didn't end when the shooting stopped. The scars, physical and psychological, would last far longer. The true cost of the conflict was measured in disrupted lives. Ordinary people paid the highest price. As July 2025 ends, what's the lesson? Old colonial borders and ancient grudges still spark modern wars. Nationalism and unresolved history can overpower diplomacy in a flash. The crisis showed how quickly a local dispute can spiral into regional danger. Advanced weapons like Grads and F-16s raise the stakes and the risks for civilians. Behind the headlines are destroyed homes and shattered lives. The real lesson: the human cost always outweighs any strategic gain. The only way forward is dialogue, compromise, and respect for shared heritage. Ancient temples should unite, not divide. Everyone deserves better than another round of rockets and ruins.